Back right here on the Morning Scramble, Robert Keith Gray, author, Presidential Perks Gone Royal. I will say that to Robert, that when we were transferring your information to our graphic machine as to the title of the book, one of our crew members said, Presidential Perks Gone Royally Wild, and I do believe that that's appropriate. Also, if you need if you want Volume 2.
In the second edition.
In the second edition, exactly. Sir, in reading your book, I realize these are not figures and these are not incidents that you have pulled out of thin air. You quote many other political and news sources for some of your information, do you not?
Yes, I do. If anybody can give me better figures than those I've used, I'd be welcome to hear them.
Right, exactly. And not only figures, commentary on the situation, of course. When we tour the president's, the presidential grounds around the White House and the living quarters and such, it is palatial, castle feel. I know that a man's castle is his home, or his home is his castle, whichever way that one goes. But no more to any extent, of course, than the president's home. Give people a tour, if you can, a visual tour of the living quarters.
Well, they're grand, and no one can object to that, of course. We want our first family to live in a fine establishment, and they do. We're very proud of the White House. All of us are proud of it. All of us has a piece of it.
It has a home port advantage, does it not? It was built, you know, the White House was built for intimidation type of such persona, was it not?
Yes, and its size is something people don't realize. They see in public tour, you only see 4 or 5 of the rooms, the public rooms. They're big ones and they're beautiful, and it gives you pride to see them. But in total, there are over 130 rooms in the White House, and the president, his first family, and relatives and guests, campaign contributors have full use of it.
And you know, we expect to see what you were just speaking about. We expect to see a bit of this happening. It just goes with the territory, does it not?
Of course, that's expected, and we accept it, and we actually applaud it. We live vicariously through other people living better lives than we.
You know, and I think one of the more egregious parts of this is, well, I don't know if you can pick one that's more than the other, but I do have to bounce back to the First Lady and the exorbitant amount of money that's being spent on her staff, on her trips, on her vacations. That to me flies as a slap in the face to the American people.
Well, you see, that's much more visible. The press has covered that a lot, and therefore folks are more mindful of those expenditures. And they are out of control on the First Lady's side, but nothing compared to the President's side. The President's side gets scared because there's some other purpose always for his trips and so forth.
Okay.
Just as an example, and his use of Air Force One, he's using it like the schedule of a regular airline practically for campaigning, but he doesn't pay but a fraction of its cost. And the truth is that so often he doesn't pay anything, because he couples the visit with something else. For example, when the forest fires were burning out in Colorado, he had 3 campaign speeches in Colorado, and then he dropped down to Colorado Springs to give some solace to the victims of the fire, so he could write off the whole trip. The taxpayers paid for everything.
Robert, in your book, you finalized the book with a call to action. What is your call to action?
Well, firstly, I would like to see a constitutional amendment to limit our president to a single term. The Tocqueville wrote a century and a half ago that giving a president 2 terms would give him a temptation to use his first 4 years to get himself reelected for the second 4 years. We have a current example of that, and it's an excellent one. And secondly, I'd have a bipartisan group, and I've suggested some people in the book that I think would be good on it, but I wouldn't care who it would be. There's leaders in the business arts and the academy and so forth, that they ought to devise a more realistic campaign competitive pricing formula for the political use of Air Force One. It's total disadvantage to the incumbent. Somebody running for the presidency is very disadvantaged expense-wise and financially. I'd also demand daylight on the president's expenses. Find some place where they're put together and we have a chance to look at all of them. I shouldn't have to spend 2 years writing a book to summarize what I can find out about them.
Exactly.
Any taxpayer ought to be able to walk in the library and say how much the president spent today and find out.
Robert, summing this up, and again, I simplify things. I would think in an economy right now that we have so many people out of work, I think what is happening here is an insight to the conscience of this person, President Obama and his First Lady we have in office. I think it's an insight into their social conscience.
It seems to me to be so. I don't mean to be partisan in my attack here, but it would seem that he would have his conscience would dictate that in a time of trial for his people, he would make some effort for tailing expenses. Exactly. One of the things we found, and we're not able to knock down, for example, is that the Obamas pay $104,000 a year to the man who walks the Obama dog. If that's true, I don't know. I can't find anybody disprove it.
Well, in face of these other figures, sir, I would not doubt that. Robert, thank you so much for being with us. Great conversation and great information. The book is Presidential Perks Gone Wild.